Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Mike, host of the free iTunes podcast, Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike. But that's not why I'm here today. This is another Saving Savvy episode. And in this one, I'm going to try to answer the question, what is a professional photographer and what is a professional camera? And those are very difficult topics, even though I think most of us think we know what that means. I'm just going to question that assumption. So why am I doing this video and why have I not done a lot of videos recently? Well, let me answer the second question first. I haven't done a lot of videos because I really haven't had a lot to say. Now, this is a generic channel, but it talks a lot about photography, but other things too. But I really haven't, now that I'm retired, have the money to drop $1,000 or more on a new camera just for the pleasure of playing around with it. So I can't really do reviews. If there was a topic that I could talk about in the practice of photography, like how to use something or how to focus on something, I would definitely do that. But I haven't really thought of something compelling. And I absolutely don't want to be one of these channels that just generates rumors like, well, this is the rumor that we've heard about Nikon or Canon or Sony, because who really cares? And I also don't want to be one of these people that is basically just promoting products and I'm a mouthpiece or a commercial for Sony or Canon or Nikon or whatever. It just doesn't make a lot of sense for me. I don't get any money from this channel. It's just for the sheer pleasure of doing it and the sheer pleasure of passing on information. But I'm doing one today, and that was stimulated by a comment that I received yesterday on a video that I made quite a long time ago. So this particular video was on the Sony Alpha 77 Mark II, which was one of their translucent kind of DSLR type cameras and a little translucent mirror in it. And in that video, I questioned Sony's, well, maybe their integrity a little bit. What I was basically saying was I think that they were artificially jacking up their ISO numbers, because when I compared that camera even to its predecessor, because I had both of them, the R77, it seemed like the claims of ISO were lower. In other words, when you were using ISO 3200, it was maybe like ISO 1600, but it was Mark 3200. And I did a rudimentary test, and in my mind, I thought I demonstrated that. Certainly not scientific, but it really was validated when more professional people did these tests and said the same thing. But anyways, what this person said was that he basically thought my review was sort of useless, and I took offense to it. Now, that is not typical for me to do, because usually I could give a rat's ass what someone says. If I feel like I've done a good job and that I presented something in a way that I felt good about, I don't really care what you think. I mean, I want you to love me. I want you to give me thumbs up. I do want that. But if you don't like it, good. God bless you. Go on with your life. But I reacted yesterday. Why would I react with a video that was years old over a comment that shouldn't mean a lot to me? Aha. This is where the psychology comes in. So let me tell you a little background. Today, so this comment came in yesterday. Today, my daughter just flew off to Africa. She's flying off to a country in southern Africa, very primitive country, where she's going to spend the next 2.5 years in the Peace Corps teaching math. Now, this is a wonderful thing. She's very altruistic. She has great empathy. She's a wonderful kid. She's super smart. I'm super proud of her, but I am not going to see my daughter for 2.5 years. Birthdays, Christmas, whatever, right? I'm not going to see my daughter. And I think I was reacting, and I wrote back a snarky comment back, which was, again, not typical. So what happened, though, the cool thing about this is that the person then wrote me back, and they said, gee, I'm sorry, I read my comment again, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, and I felt that maybe it was a little bit too sharp, and basically that was not his intention. His intention was to make his opinion known, and so we kind of kumbaya back and forth, and everything is good. But it got me thinking how we can sometimes misinterpret things, and how we can even misinterpret our own understandings of things, and that's what leads into this. What is a professional camera? What is a professional photographer? Which goes back to another comment that I got on another Sony product. Again, I got this comment a couple years ago, and this was on the RX10 Mark IV, which is their super duper super zoom camera. Now, I will tell you right off the bat that it was the finest super zoom camera that I'd ever used. It's super expensive, but I think it's actually worth the money. But the question that I had was, who's going to buy this camera? If you are a family person just taking family shots, you could buy a much cheaper camera, super zoom camera that will probably work well enough. And if you're a professional, you're going to probably want a camera that is more adaptable. So I got a comment on that one, basically questioning, because I sometimes call myself a professional photographer. We're going to talk about that, questioning that. And also this person noted that they were doing lots of professional work with the RX10 Mark IV, which I think is perfectly reasonable, right? The thing that amazed me is that person said they're doing a lot of architectural photography with it, which is amazing because I do tons of architectural photography professionally, and I'll tell you, what do you need the most with indoor architectural photography? You need a wide angle, which that camera does not have. So this person must be doing some magic, but that's neither here nor there. So those things coalesce together. Big, long introduction. So sorry. I've been away from you guys for so long. I feel like I got to catch up with you. And so forgive me. But that leads to the question of what is a professional photographer and what is a professional camera? By the way, they are doing road work. They're actually replacing my road in front of my house. So if you hear rumbles, that's what that is. I know. Well, when am I going to make these videos? So what is a professional photographer? So let's look at some things that we might assume. Well, a professional photographer is a person with a license in photography. Well, that doesn't exist. How about they've gotten a degree, maybe associate's degree, or maybe a bachelor's degree, or maybe even a PhD in photography? Well, we know a lot of people that have degrees in photography that don't do photography, right? They're selling shoes someplace. Well, how about they only use high-end equipment, like the really expensive stuff? Well, I have heard of photographers using very basic micro four thirds equipment for portraits. I've heard of and seen articles on the internet of folks that have used little 1-inch sensor cameras for actual magazine spreads. In fact, this one guy went to I think he went to Estonia, and he had a Sony RX100, maybe the original one, I think. But he brought that camera specifically because he needed a small camera and did these beautiful spreads with that. So you really can't say it has to be professional equipment, because those are more consumer-oriented pieces of kit. Well, how about they make a living doing their craft? It's their source of income. Well, what does that mean? I mean, if I'm living at home in my parents' basement and I made $100 this month on a photography gig, and maybe 3 months from now I'll make another $100, does that make me a professional photographer? Well, maybe yes, but maybe no. They have a wide breadth of knowledge about photography and about photography equipment. Now, I will tell you this is not the case at all, because I live in a town that has a beautiful river walk in the center of the downtown. It's a very picturesque spot. It's a spot where photographers often go to take pictures of weddings and whatever. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen a photographer, they have their DSLR out or their mirrorless camera out. It has the flash on top. They're in an outdoor setting and they're bouncing the flash up to a cloud. I don't know what they're bouncing it. But, they don't have an understanding of what they're doing. They just read someplace that you're supposed to point the thing up to diffuse the light. They don't realize that you can't bounce off of a cloud, at least not with a little flash. So I would say that's really not the case. They own their own studio. Well, I mean, of course, a lot of photographers don't have their own studios, or they don't even work in a studio. They work in different settings. If you are a wedding photographer and you're doing, my cat looks crooked here, I don't know. If you're doing wedding photography, you just need a wedding, right? That's what you need. So I think the bottom line is that all these assumptions that we might have about a professional photographer, it's crooked that way. What we might have about a professional photographer is just not true. A professional photographer, in my mind, is a person who is commissioned by someone or some organization to take photographs. So if I take a bunch of pictures and someone asks me, hey, I like that picture of me that you took at the Christmas party, can I have it? That's really not a professional photographer. However, if my boss comes to me and says, I would like to hire you to be the official photographer for this event, and I'm going to pay you. What are they going to pay me? $1 million? $10? A case of beer? Yeah, whatever, right? Someone has commissioned me to do their work. If someone thinks that my work is good enough that they are going to request that I do work for them, I would consider that a better definition of a professional photographer than someone with a wide breadth of knowledge. I mean, I see these people on YouTube all the time. There's a guy that has a wide breadth of knowledge of camera lenses and a particular brand of camera. I don't think I've ever seen a picture that he's taken. Is he a professional? I don't know. He may be. But, it's really, are you doing the work not because you like doing it, but because someone wants you to do it? I think that's what a professional is. You might have a different opinion. Please kindly list it below if you do. So what's a professional camera? So a lot of people, this is my old trusty Canon 5D Mark III, not 4, sorry, 5D Mark III. Most people would say that this is a professional or semi-professional camera. So let's look at just some parameters, just like we did with a professional photographer, and see if that holds up. So a professional camera has a full frame sensor. No, I mean, professionals often will use cameras. I've gone to many an event where someone was using a standard, APS, like a Nikon 7000 series camera or something with an APS-C sensor. Like I talked about, there was a guy that did a magazine spread with a 1-inch sensor. I've seen people do a lot of work with micro four thirds sensors. Sensor doesn't really have much to do with the camera. Now, more expensive cameras tend to have bigger sensors. So you got that going for them. How about amazing focus? Well, certainly better cameras tend to have better focus, but we're now seeing that whole focusing drift down into lower cameras. It's always done that. So on my my Nikon D5, not my D500, my D300. D300 or 300T, whatever. Anyways, my old Nikon camera. I think that had 31 focus points, and that was considered incredibly state-of-the-art. And I will tell you, that camera has phenomenal focus. That camera is at least, it's got to be, it's really, I think it came out in 2011 or something, so it's really pretty old. But it had great focus, but that focusing system then drifted down into lower, cheaper consumer type cameras, right? So cameras generally now have great focus, and with the advent of more and more mirrorless cameras and the ability just to burn those sensors onto the chip in the manufacturing process, and then to use the power of the microprocessor in the camera to have better focusing, it's hard to say that I think all cameras of a certain level or higher are going to have great focus. How about amazing ISO? Well, this is another thing that kind of confuses me. And one of the things, so I am an ISO nut. I love shooting in low light. But to be honest with you, even though I've bought cameras for decades now and have some of the newer cameras, maybe not the newest ones, it seems like ISO has improved over time, but it never in the way that you see it in these reviews. I mean, they're saying that they're going to the stratosphere, and I'm saying, well, gee, 6400 seems pretty good now. Everything else looks mushy. So I would say most cameras now, especially when you get into a somewhat larger sensor, have very good ISO performance. And there might be a little bit of a difference between the super expensive cameras and the less expensive cameras, but not as much as you might want to think. How about things like they're weather sealed? Well, that's again a more expensive camera, but I don't know if that really fits. How about more buttons? I love buttons. I mean, I absolutely love buttons. Well, buttons are good. Customization is good, especially if you know how to use it. It might be confusing if you don't know how to use it, so you're definitely going to see more buttons on cameras that professionals use versus those that amateurs use. But I don't think we could use that either, because again, it doesn't really say what a professional camera is. If I have a lot of buttons, is this a professional camera? I mean, I could just put buttons on everything, right? No. So here again, I think, now this is a cheesy answer, but I think it's the right answer. A professional camera is a camera that a professional photographer uses. Now, I held up this camera. I have a lot of cameras. I have been using this old Canon 5D Mark III a lot lately, and I was wondering why. Because, I'm kind of like a camera whore. I mean, I just, whatever I want to use, I just use. I don't have any particular super loyalty to a camera. But I've been using this camera a lot, and it's because I've been doing so much architectural photography, interior shots mostly for a builder, a lot of exterior shots too. These shots are everything they're placed on blog pages, they're placed on web pages, they're some of them are printed, some of them are sent to insurance companies. It's whatever I'm called on to do. That's what I will do. And I use this camera, and I think, why? And it really. It is very customizable, but the great thing about Canon cameras is that they are so refined that I can grab this camera, and within 30 seconds, you ask me to do something on it, I can do it. You need me to change the focus point, or change the ISO, or change the metering, or whatever. It's just so logical that I can do that, which I can't do with some other cameras because a lot of their buttons are customized and all that. So I would call this a professional camera because I'm using it professionally. However, it maybe wouldn't be a professional camera if it just sat in a drawer all the time. So I know those are not satisfying answers for those of you who want to know, I am a professional camera, I am a professional. But what I'm trying to say is that sometimes we assume we know something and we really don't. I assumed that guy that wrote that comment yesterday was being snarky. He wasn't being snarky. The fact that I was kind of snarky back and he responded back to me, I was being kind of snarky. I apologize to him if he's watching this. We had a dialogue, and I just realized that he miswrote and I then over misread. The guy that made the comments kind of questioning, are you a professional? And, I use my RX10 Mark IV for everything and it's super duper. Was he being snarky? Well, I have to assume no. That maybe he really does use his RX10 for architectural photography. And maybe he gets great results. And maybe he is questioning the thing about everyone because everyone says they're a professional or whatever. And that's a reasonable point of view. So I guess I'm just trying to get you to think about the broader idea here that although things are often sold to us and we buy things because we think, I need to buy this camera because I want to be a real photographer and I need a professional photographer, a professional camera, and maybe that's not so true. And maybe this concept of I want to be a professional photographer, so that means I've got to make my entire living, or I have to make over $100,000 a year on it, or I have to get a degree in it. Maybe that's not so true either. Maybe it's just a matter of we can do what we want to do, and if it works out, it's great, and if it doesn't, we can try again or try something else. Anyway, a little philosophical for you guys today. I apologize. That's just me. I'm retired now, so I get to think too much. Thinking too much up here. And that's actually okay with me too. Take care, everyone. If you get some time, watch some of my other things that I do. The thing that I'm really spending a lot of time on now is my blog. It talks about a lot of personal things. So if you want to know deep inner secrets of Dr. Mike, it's drmikekuna.com, drmikekuna.com. I think Dr. Michael Kuna also gets you there. Not so sure. Anyways, bye, everyone. Thank you for listening to this. Bye.